legendary Joe Thomas has finally crept his way on the bus.
I made it.
Joe, how are you?
I'm doing fan-fucking-tastic.
I like that.
I don't know if you guys saw any of the games last weekend, but the Browns, they're on their way to their Super Bowl, and they've checked off the first team off their list.
Well, I'll tell you what. I was going to introduce you as one of the greatest offensive linemen to ever play the game, but we'll just get into it now. Why don't we? You say the Browns are on their way to the Super Bowl. Now, how much? We have a whole list of questions here. I'm going off the radar immediately.
Perfect.
When you say the Browns are on their way to the Super Bowl, I checked one off the list. How much of that is Joe Thomas? I've drinking the Kool-Aid. I have been a part of that program or for this franchise for 11 years, and I've stuck with them since I've retired, and I just need this for them. And how much of that is real?
In a real number, I would say like 99%. That's just a homer Cleveland Browns fan, former player / fanboy talking.
Good.
But that's okay. Like, that's all I want to be in life. Like, I have no aspirations outside of just being a homer, and that's probably why I'm not very good at being a media analyst. But, that's all right. Like, I was the one beating the drum saying the Browns are going to beat the Steelers last weekend, and I'm going to revel in the fact that I finally got something right.
Who are they going to this week? They're playing Kansas City?
Yeah, I think
they travel to Kansas City
this week. The Chiefs. Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem.
That shouldn't be an issue at all, especially at Arrowhead. Well, there's not many fans in the stands.
If you guys get a Super Bowl, are you going to get a ring?
You better get a ring. You have to get a ring.
Good question. I would hope so. I mean,
why?
Why? Well, because I do a 1 hour radio segment with them once a week. I mean, if there's not anybody more deserving than the guy that does that tiny little radio bit with them once a week during the season.
Then all the fans have a reason to say they've endured so much pain over all this time that they deserve a ring too.
Oh, that's a good point.
How are you setting yourself apart? Like
I'll tell you what sets them apart: 10 Pro Bowls and 5 All-Pros.
Wrong. Like, I don't have to set myself apart from anybody. I think the fans deserve a ring. As long as it's on Jimmy Haslam's dime, I think everybody in the whole city of Cleveland should get a Super Bowl.
I'll move to Cleveland.
I'm fucking about
I'll move to Cleveland for a ring.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it would be absolute anarchy if the one bright spot in the whole time you played was you and they don't give you a ring. I think it'd be absolutely disgusting. Before we actually get into our other questions that we've talked about, let's go back to, what is it? 2017 was your last game, or 2017?
Yes, us.
Against the Titans. Against the Titans. You went down near our sideline. Now, let me paint you a picture, Joe. Being a young buck made his first Pro Bowl with the Joe Thomas and the Andrew Whitworth. I got to bond with two of the greatest to ever play the game. I go in week 7, Joe Thomas, the legend who's done more than 10,000 snaps consecutively. I don't think I've even played a whole game doing all the snaps. Joe Thomas is out there being Joe Thomas, making things look way easier than they should be. The man goes down. What happens? My heart stops for a second. It flutters. I take a step back. I look at my O-line brother and I say, he needs me right now. He needs me. And I jogged out there right when you got up, and I just kept on jogging. And about all the way through, I look back, I'm like, I'm about halfway through the entire field here. And so I quickly, I slow down and I kind of pat you on the ass and I get out of there. Do you remember that moment? Do you even know I was there, or what was going through your head at that moment? Because for me, it was pure embarrassment, but I'm happy we did that together.
I'm so happy that you got embarrassed by that, because it was so funny until I think the next day I got some text messages. I didn't even realize you'd gone out on the field, because at that moment, like, I knew exactly what happened. I was blocking, and I extended my arm on a block, and instantly I could feel my tricep tear came off the bone from my elbow, and I was laying there on the ground grabbing my tricep, and it was like my whole career flashed through my eyes, and it was like looking through a keyhole, right? Like, your peripheral vision goes away, and all of a sudden everything's going really slowly, like it's in slow motion, and all I can see is like basically what's right in front of my face in a very small window. And I got up, and I just remember thinking, like, just got to get to the locker room. Like, you're in like survival mode. Like, you hear about guys that are in the military and they get shot, and they're in that survival mode where their body's trying to take them to the grey room, right? And they're just trying to fight it, and just like, all I need to do is take 2 steps. And then once you get there, you just focus on the next step. For me, I was like, I just got to get to the training room. I don't know why that's like the headspace I was in. And so I had no idea that you were even running behind me. Because if I did know, I would have tried to like maybe do a little bit better job, do some weaving like I was being chased by an alligator.
That's true.
To see how far
I'm
you
only
would have
good in a
taken
straight
me.
line. That's fair.
Yeah, if you would have taken me if I could have taken you all the way to the Browns sideline and maybe behind the bench, just see how far you would have chased me. That would have been a really.
If you started weaving, the first thing I do go, it's a game now. Now I have to get him. And I would chase you all around that damn stadium. Damn
With
dog
that little
pound
hat
yelling
on.
at me. I'd have chased you everywhere.
Pac-Man.
If you would have started weaving, but that straight line was pretty serious. I thought to myself, well, he's hurt and I'm
Hey,
embarrassed.
that
so I need
shit
to get
was
the
so
hell out of
funny,
here.
dude. He just stops and turns around. You got the little bucket hat on and shit. Like, yeah, I'll get him later.
I'll just text him. I'll just text him later, dude.
Hey, you said you look good doing it.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. It takes a lot to look this average.
Hey, you know who doesn't look average?
Tell me.
Joe Thomas.
Yes.
Joe, you went from big ugly in the NFL to now look at you.
That was hard to swallow, I bet, hearing that right there.
Hey, it just is what it is. It's factual. Like, you look great now. I assume. What do you do? What is your diet? Are you a keto man?
I am. I'm not very strict on it anymore. I was when I was losing my weight. So I lost about 60 pounds from my plan days. And then once I got down to like 250, then I said, all right, I'll do keto kind of during the week. And then when I'm out with friends, social settings, I'm going to drink 20 beers and eat, cheese fries at 2 a.m. because that's what's fun in life. And I don't want to like withhold that from myself. So I'll just work out a little bit harder on the weekend so I don't get back to being a 300-pound fat ass.
Was it discipline? Was it discipline that got all that weight off, or did you start to experiment since you're out of the NFL a little bit? Did you when guys are in the locker room and they're like, I can't wait till ball's over because I'm gonna see what some test is about. I'm gonna see what some of this stuff's
like
about.
TRT, those types of things.
Like all that different stuff. And like I just want to know, did you dabble? Did you experiment a little bit?
You try something?
So, my bag of supplements is bigger than the gym bag they used to put my shoulder pads in when we'd go travel to Tennessee.
Yes.
I like it, dude.
Oh, man.
I tell you what, when you work as hard as you did for as long as you did at the weight you did, you deserve to get you a little extra boost here and there.
To get a little head start.
A little head start.
Yeah.
Hey, you spend that many years in the Midwest eating what you want, doing what you want.
Yes.
Eventually you're going to say, I'll hit this treadmill, but I'm going to give myself a little extra to go with it.
Enduring all those losses.
The secret's really that GMO corn that they grow up here,
The more you sprinkle, the better it is.
Yeah. Those things don't make anything grow.
That is a beautiful thing. Go ahead, baby.
I was going to say, you go from playing, and obviously the product you got to put on the field every year, it was not up to standard to what the Browns are actually doing this year. How do you feel?
With some,
easy.
Everyone's talking to you. It's upsetting me.
Hey, trust me.
Right there. You're perfect.
Trust me, I'm 0-2 in the playoffs. I got nothing either, dude. But what does it feel like watching the Browns have success after you were there so long and now being a fan, seeing them do well?
Yeah, it's awesome because I fully have crossed that threshold from being like a player's mindset to being straight up fan. And I think that's what's helped me in retirement. Like I haven't really gone through a lot of like the tough mental periods that a lot of guys go through when they retire.
Yeah.
Because once I hung up those cleats, I never thought about it one more time. And so for me, there's no regrets. There's no feeling like, oh man, I wish I would be out there with those guys. It's just like, I'm just enjoying this completely as a fan. And that's been great for me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
No regret. When you hung them up, you truly didn't go through any kind of regret or like,
no,
outside of missing the boys.
Yeah. I mean, you miss the locker room, of course. You miss those paychecks that show up twice a month that are pretty fat.
Yeah.
But like outside of that, I had been getting beat up pretty bad. And so for 2 years, I kind of like wrestled with when's the right time to retire. I mean, my last 2 years in the NFL, I basically didn't practice. I couldn't even stand at practice because my knee was so jacked up. And twice a week, they would go in with a needle and they'd drain my knee and they would take, 80 or 100 cc's of fluid out the day before the game. And then you go play the game. And then after the game, they would take it out again for the week so you could just walk around and rehab. And then they would, put in Uflexa, which is like a joint lubricant. They put in cortisone, like all sorts of stuff just to try to get you to Sunday. And that really started wearing on me. I don't know how many injuries you guys have had, but like just that constant battle of, am I going to be healthy enough to even suit up on the weekends was really draining. And it just the wear and tear in your body, it makes things not so much fun.
Well, you did it with grace because I think all of us watching as fans never noticed that you were going through that. We just saw you make Pro Bowls.
Oh, dude, yeah, you're a
and
savage.
string along snaps.
You were a
That's all we
savage.
saw. As a fan, when you watch the boys, you see what they did on Sunday or last night against the Steelers. Baker Mayfield, right up and down. He hasn't had the strong and steady consistency that Joe Thomas had in his career. Where do you see him now, and where do you see him going in the future?
Well, at the beginning of this season, he was not playing all that well. He threw a lot of interceptions. He had a lot of the issues with bad decision-making that kind of plagued him the year before. But the second half of the season, he's been fantastic. I mean, hardly any interceptions, great decision-making. He's been a great leader. He knows when to tuck the ball and put his head down, and he can get that first down. Like he's not quite Lamar Jackson mobility-wise, but he's definitely not a statue quarterback. He can pick and choose his moments. He's really good at throwing on the run, and I'm a big believer. Like I was skeptical at the beginning of the season, but the way he's played the second half of the season and kind of the direction that arrow is headed for Baker, I'm a big believer. I think he is the guy in Cleveland for the next 15 years.
He's definitely cemented himself making the playoffs for the first time in 18 years, being the guy to lead the boys to do that. A couple other guys that were quarterbacks for you. Johnny Manziel came in, same draft class as your favorite tackle to watch now, me, was on Mike's podcast, Mike Stud's podcast, or just Mike's podcast.
Shout out his podcast, You Never Know. I think that's what it's called.
Is it You Never Know?
Yep.
Johnny was on there and started saying things that he wished he handled things better in Cleveland, and one thing led to another, and he said he wasted 2 years of your life. Like when you hear stuff like that, guy with talent like he did in college, then obviously it was what it was. When he was at Cleveland and in the NFL, what do you think about that kind of stuff? Do you have any animosity towards him?
No, I like Johnny a lot. I even liked him when he was my teammate, even though he was doing knucklehead stuff, like showing up drunk to meetings and practice and not giving any sort of effort. I mean, that's just who he was. And you tried to help him, and he had people around him that were trying to help him, but he just didn't want to be helped at the time. And I feel honestly worse for him because he squandered an incredible opportunity. He had incredible ability. He was super smart. Obviously, we all know about what he did in college. And if he would have just applied himself a little bit, he could still be playing in the NFL. He might have still be the Browns quarterback because he had that type of talent. And so if anything, I appreciate that he can look back on his career in Cleveland and in hindsight say he wished he would have done things differently because clearly he should have. But I feel bad for him because now he's in some football league I never heard of, like trying to scratch and claw his way to get back into what, like the CFL? Like that's where he wants to be in a couple of years. Like I feel bad for a guy that squandered that much of an opportunity.
Yeah. Do you think there's a way he makes it back to the NFL, or is that ship definitely sailed at this point?
It's at this point, I got to think it's sailed because he's not a young buck anymore. And he's had so many trials and tribulations and so many opportunities. He would have to be absolutely lighting things on fire at several different leagues before the NFL would even consider to look at him again. And even if he did get to that point, I think there's always going to be this dark cloud over his head. Like, hey, what happens if he does taste success again in the NFL? He gets back to the NFL. Is he going to go back to his old ways? You know, he had a lot of issues that I'm sure he's talked about with, addiction and, bad people like around him kind of influencing him. And you always wonder, is he going to kind of go back to that life if he has some success and gets back into the NFL?
No question. I believe that. I mean, I'm not sure if it'll happen or not, but
yeah, no doubt. I didn't know.
I wouldn't bet that he's going to be in the NFL, but like I said, I really like Johnny. He's still a friend of mine. All of us have different demons that we fight throughout our life, and he fought a lot of them, unfortunately.
He did. And having success that young there's not a lot of childhood stars that do well, right? Like the kid from Home Alone.
Yeah.
That guy's
He said the kid from Home Alone.
Right? And Manziel, when we were in college at the same time, I was around him in a couple different functions, and it was just like, dude's big swinging dick, like just absolutely crushing it. Could do no wrong. We were at a banquet together, and he had wine in a Dixie cup, and I was like, oh, this dude just does what he wants. Just does whatever he wants, crushing it. So,
and honestly, I think, he probably had a lot of enablers in college and in high school that never came down hard with discipline saying, Johnny, you can't do that shit. And then just one thing leads to another and it snowballs, and it doesn't affect his success because he had great success on the field. and all the coaches that are relying on him going out and succeeding so that he can pay their salaries, they're not saying anything to him. So if nobody's ever going to say anything to get him to stop, it's just going to keep getting worse and worse until you get to the NFL, and it's too late at that point.
Dude, a lot of young guys I feel like can have that issue or be victim of that because your environment kind of shapes your path and stuff. And guys just surround themselves with, like you were saying, enablers, and you can just get in the snowball. And a lot of young guys struggle with that. It's always something you try and preach to rookies or anything else, is like surrounding yourself with the right people. And it seemed like, Johnny struggled with doing that.
So why are you hanging out with Taylor then? That's what I want.
He's a changed man. Together, Joe. I've met a lot of his
stuff together.
Trust me, Joe. I was on the Raiders last year, and there's a couple guys that played at Michigan with Taylor, and they were asking me all these hilarious questions.
Budweiser sign falls off the wall onto his head.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Sorry, Budweiser. We do love you. But thank you.
And I run into some of his old teammates at Michigan and old friends that they knew a different Taylor in college.
Way
apparently.
Different.
And they'll be like, oh, he's not still doing this. And I'm like, dude, I don't even know that Taylor. Like, I've never even met that Taylor. So it seems like I'm surrounding myself with a good person.
Yes. I tell you what, the key to happiness in life is low expectations, and Will's definitely nailed that on the head. He's been doing a great job with that. I have changed. Joe, well, first off, I had my shit together when we met. I was
Taylor, now let me tell you something now, Joe. Let me tell you something.
There's a measure of low expectations there.
That is, I was just happy to be around the boys, man. I was happy to share those experiences with you. And you know what? Yes, we're over here at the Tennessee Titans. They enjoy their left tackle. Maybe not as much as the Cleveland Browns enjoyed theirs, but they're happy. All right. I'm like the knockoff Costco version. You buy me in bulk. All right. but we can't all be Joe Thomas. I'm working on it, baby. We thank you so much for coming.
Hang on. I just wanted to ask him one more question.
We got one more question for you, then you're out of here.
Because I enjoy following you. What is your follow? Joe Thomas?
Joe Thomas 73.
Joe Thomas 73.
That was the number.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know. That's I enjoy keeping up with you because, I mean, obviously you're a legend on the field, but you've kind of mastered, and we're actually in an email thread together with old Eric Serrano. And I see you post. That's actually how I knew you were in the keto game. But what are you up to now? Like, what are you doing? We know you have a hard stop time coming up for NFL Network. What are you doing now with the boys in the NFL Network?
Yeah, I love it. I feel like I got the best gig in the world because I don't have to work on weekends. I just work Thursday Night Football, and I get to, outside of the COVID stuff, I get to travel to all the cool cities across the country and go hang out, do pregame shows, do postgame shows for Thursday Night Football, and then go home and hang out on the weekends with the boys.
Yeah, I love that. What's your whiskey of choice? Are you a whiskey guy or are you tequila?
So just kind of like everything in life, I'm a big variety guy, and it just kind of depends on when you catch me. But lately I've been drinking a lot of bourbon. And,
what's the go-to bourbon?
I had Old Forester.
Solid.
It was really good. So I had a few of those, and then I always end up just like kind of devolving into beer because that's just where I cut my teeth when I was a youth in Wisconsin. And it's like, boom, I crash and burn into like whatever beer's in my fridge, usually Busch Light.
I love that.
Busch Light.
That is humble beginnings. Busch Light, dude. That's where you know you grew up in a small town.
It doesn't hold a candle to Hams, but it is still a great beer.
I love Hams. By the way, I love your mug, your Hams mug.
Thank you. It was a gift from our young buck, Josh Butler, back here. It was, and I'm also wearing the hat. I know devil's in the details, Joe, but it's a beautiful thing. It was my college beer.
My dad had a Hams beer sign in our basement in college. It was like a picture of the North Woods that had like a waterfall that was lit up. It was fantastic.
Unbelievable. I'll send you a picture of the one I have at my house.
I gotta see it.
It's got a bear. Absolutely. We will send you that. Would you like to
No, I'm solid. I got my question.
You're good. We'll go.
I'm fired up. I'm fired up that I got to talk to Joe Thomas. Joe, if you ever come to Nashville, bro, you got to come on the bus for real because I think we'd have a great time. I'll have a little bourbon sitting right here for you. We'll slam a few. But thank you so much for coming on Bussin' with the Boys. You're absolutely crushing in the media world. You're crushing on Twitter. Go follow the boy. But thank you so much. And thank you for inspiring a couple of young bucks to do a podcast of our own. I know you got Tomahawk.
Dude, you guys are killing it, man. I'm just following in your footsteps at this point. But
Yeah.
Hey, hopefully next year, Thursday Night Football, will be in Nashville. I can come visit you guys and we can tie one off like me and Taylor did last time.
That was a fun time.
Love it. Let's go.
For sure. Absolutely.
Let's
All right, thanks, guys.
Appreciate you, Joe.
See you, dude.
See ya.